All right, everyone. I am here at BlizzCon 2015 to talk to Marty Strenzawilk. I think I got it.
You got it.
Okay. So actually, Marty here is the owner of Follow Esports, which many people will know recently acquired the Dignitas EU team. I think in the league scene, a lot of people might have known you from your brand from like articles that Thorin has done with you guys and that kind of thing. But you actually, we were just discussing, you actually have several different teams besides your League of Legends team. Do you want to sort of break that down for me?
Sure. Yeah, we acquired our first team about 2 months ago, pro Counter-Strike team. It's a little bit of a different roster now, but we've had that kind of as our first foray in. Then we picked up 2 pro Smash players, MacD and Nintendude, who've been performing awesome on the way through. Then we moved into World of Warcraft. We were lucky to have a roster that made it here today, top 6. Played tremendously. We were knocked out, but they had a really great showing. And then finally, our Hearthstone roster. We have 6 really great guys, one of which, VLPS, made it to just before to BlizzCon, so through the regional qualifiers. And then so the League of Legends is our 5th team.
So a lot of people, I think, were kind of surprised. Like, what is this Follow Esports thing? If they weren't very familiar, can you give me a little bit of background on your company and sort of your brand and what your goals are in esports and that kind of thing?
Sure. So I come from the entertainment industry for 10 years. I worked in New York in film and television and theater. So I'm an entertainment junkie to begin with. When I was out of that, kind of doing manufacturing for a while, I got a little taste for it. I'm a huge esports junkie. I love watching it. But I got really frustrated because I love Hearthstone. That's one of the games I watch the most. And Hearthstone is very fragmented. It's very hard to go, when is Hearthstone on, right? And so one day, after so many times logging on and seeing that the stream was almost over, I decided to fix the problem. So I called an old roommate of mine from college, my buddy Vinny, and I said, hey, here's my idea. And Vinny's really great because if he doesn't think it's a good idea, he'll tell you. He's like, that's stupid, right? Yeah. And Vinny instantly was like, that's a great idea. So let's build this. So we started building it kind of as a hobby, honestly, back in December and January. Brought my wife on board because she's really good with like accounting and logistics and stuff like that. And then we were based in Rochester, New York. There was a business plan competition, and we weren't really kind of treating it as business quite yet. Yeah. But one of our advisors said, you should enter this thing, give it a shot. It'll help you kind of figure out your business at least. And somehow we won the thing. And, you know, it was a bunch of 55, 60-year-old judges where there's pieces of farm equipment that we were winning it over, which was crazy, you know. But what it did is it really legitimized us as a business in the Rochester community. And so we get a lot of resources and help there. You know, Follow Esports at its base is the TV guide of esports. That's what we started for. That was the first problem I set out to solve. But I would say that what we really want to do is give a place for fans to engage with esports. That's why we added like the editorial section where we've got Thorin, Lurpus, EG and Control, League of Emily, you know, a whole bunch of really prolific writers where we're not going to give you the scores, we're not going to give you highlights. We want people who know the scene to be able to give you their opinion, even if it's controversial, right? Say what you really feel about things as long as it's not offensive. And then moving into the team kind of side of things was originally really I mean, it was a marketing play at first, right? Like, how do we get our name out there? And as soon as we had our first team, we fell in love, is really what it is. You know, I've always managed talent because I was in the theater side of things. And a theater talent is really not that any different than pro esports athletes, right? And I loved it. And I was like, we're going to build a team. I really love this. I'm really excited. And I've had a great time with my players, helping them have the resources so they can just go be great players and not have to worry about the logistics and stuff, you know?
Now, picking up a Smash player or a Hearthstone player, that's not that huge of an endeavor when compared to trying to purchase a LCS slot. We keep hearing a lot of, you know, I mean, recently we saw a team come in with a ton of VC backing. We're seeing, you know, just a lot of big numbers being thrown out there. What was the process of talking to Odie and coming to this point? And then at what point in time did you decide you wanted to get into the LCS? I mean, what really brought you to this point?
So we have a group of investors as well, but they're a little different in that they're mostly people who are Rochester-based looking to help grow the Rochester economy, right? It's not people looking to make a quick buck. They believe in us that we can really bring jobs to the area, which is what I find really important. I grew up in that area. And so when we were looking for what is that big move for us, right, that makes us legitimate, my investors had always said, what's that non-traditional play? You're not just going to do Twitter ads or Facebook ads. And I saw this article where Odie had said they're selling the team, and I said, there's no way they're gonna take me seriously, but I'm gonna send an email. And so I sent an email literally to just info at, Dignitas. And 6 hours later, I get an email back from Odie that says, here's my Skype. And I hop on Skype like, oh my God, I'm talking to Odie, like who's a legend. And, he was just a really nice person, and he's really accommodating and he did take me seriously, right? Like there was no reason not to. And I think that we developed an amazing rapport. I kind of joke that we're like old friends now after only a couple months, because we talk like every day on Skype. And when I first went to sit down with one of my lead investors and say, I want to do this, right? I took him out for a beer and I said, what if I told you I have a website that's about the NBA and the Milwaukee Bucks for sale, but I can change the name of the Milwaukee Bucks to have the same name as my website. Would you buy that team? He said, of course I would. I said, well, the Milwaukee Bucks are for sale. Let's go buy them. Yeah. And he kind of laughed, of course. But having those kind of people with that kind of business experience behind me really helped me to see that this was a smart deal for us as a company, so that we could be put on the map and be taken more seriously. Everything from invites from my Hearthstone players, right, like to events, to being able to pick up bigger players or that kind of thing, or a writer wanting to come write for us, going, okay, that's a legitimate place to go because they're on the map, right? And then I'm just a massive LCS fan. I watch a ton of League, and the excitement of watching someone else's team is one thing, but I've already just watched my Warcraft guys in there, right? It was like tingling and exciting. There's the Follow Esports brand on stage, and those are my guys who I talk to every day, and I'm just super excited to be able to sit in my living room, put my Chromecast on, and be like, there's our League of Legends team on television, right?
So I will admit, you're talking a little bit about having your name up there as the team and all that. I will admit that maybe one of my first reactions when I heard about this is like, well, Follow Esports makes a lot of sense as a name and a brand for a website, but it's going to feel kind of strange to have like Follow Esports, who like a player or whatever, right? As a tagline. Do you feel like there's an issue there at all with having that be the name of your brand and as the name of the team? Is that something that you think could become an issue?
So we're actually, I'll be honest right now, like we're aware, especially, Twitch chat and Reddit and stuff coming out there going, is this Team Iron? That's my favorite one, right? Or did Adobe buy a team? Because did Adobe Photoshop buy a team because our logo looks similar to that, something we didn't catch on to early enough, right? Sometimes you don't even notice the obvious. So we're going through a lot of in-depth conversations about what should our brand be. And it's not out of the question, right? We never tended to own a team. So Follow Esports works really well for website, like you said. It doesn't necessarily work as well as, I think we put it best as, if I'm a kid and I love a team, do I want to wear a t-shirt that says Follow Esports, right? And so we're digging through that right now, and it's not a tiny decision, right? But I would say that we are aware.
And one of the questions I think a lot of people will have is, can you support, you're in Rochester, New York, kind of a very big different distance from your team. How will you be able to support that team being, so far away?
Yeah, and one of the big things I thought about in going to LCS period was it's living in a team house. It's all these other things that don't come with, like you said, a Hearthstone player, a Smash player. I think number one, the big thing was we found a tremendous manager. So Daniel Vorborg, who worked with G2 before, and he's got a degree in business. Like he's not just some guy off the street, right? He really knows what he's doing. He came recommended to us, and I instantly took to this guy. And so he's going to be living there and really managing things. We're also working with, obviously getting a coach that can come in and not do more than just be a strategic, right? Can lead those guys and help with that, because these are some young guys. I have a 16 and a 17-year-old right now, right? I get that. And they're great, but they are also barely out of high school. And so I would say that the biggest thing is going to be things like partnerships. Like Odie and I talk a lot about how it's easy for me to hop a flight to LA to help him out, and it's easy for him to hop a flight to Germany to help me out, right? Or I've made some friendships with some people in Berlin who also, again, can pop over really quickly. I've been talking to some folks who are experienced in esports and said, hey, where can I help, and that kind of thing. And I think it's the community of esports, right? It gives you that ability, and it is very global at this point. But for me, it's important that we put the right infrastructure there so these problems don't arise to begin with. Good management, good resources, everything from having good furniture to good computers, right? So.
Should fans of the Dignitas team, former Dignitas team, expect any big changes or anything strange before the start of the LCS?
I don't think so. We have the 4 players that came with the roster because Obvious was already on his way before it came in our direction. I really love these guys as far as a unit. They have such great chemistry. I went up to Copenhagen actually to meet them before we finalized things, just to be like, look, I'm a real person, not some faceless guy over there in the U.S. And I just took them out. We had dinner and we went to an amusement park and just hung out. And immediately you could see that these guys are really a great unit, right? Yeah. They're friends on and off the battlefield and stuff. And even Daniel and I talked about this because Daniel met us there that day, and it was like, you don't often see that in esports, right? Sometimes you're just in the same team, and that's what it happens to be. So that excites me a lot. But of course, this is competitive esports, so we're going to go into our boot camp or whatever you want to call it, and we're going to see, right, who does belong on the team. I think going in, those are the 4 right guys, right? But I'm also not the LCS expert. That's why I have a coach and why I have a manager, and that's their job to go, what's the best roster for us going forward?
Any expectations for your team next split? I mean, where would you like them to get? What would you like to see them achieve in the first split of LCS for them?
So I'm a big believer in that attainable goal things. We call them SMART goals, right? And I think for us, just to be able to make playoffs might be a good stretch goal for us. Is it possible to do more? Of course, right? I mean, that'd be great. But I believe that winning culture is really important, right? You want to build a winning culture. And in a winning culture, you may not win right away. You might lose a few games as you start to figure things out. And that's not as important as setting the infrastructure for what does that whole thing look like. I grew up in traditional sports, and I remember that idea that when you had your football team you played for, you didn't win for your coach, you didn't win for yourself, you won for this bigger kind of brand thing that the town was behind, right? It was its own entity almost. And if we can build that kind of culture in here, which takes time, then the steps will lead us to the next place, which is, then of course, getting to be a higher seed in the playoffs, getting into Worlds and so on and so forth. But that's certainly not a goal for season 1, right?
Well, Marty, I'd love to talk to you more, but I know you have some business meetings to get to, as happens, I guess, when you make a big push into esports really quickly. Is there anything that you would like to say to any of the League of Legends fans out there who are like, what is this Team Iron thing that's happening, Photoshop thing?
I would just say that we're really excited to bring another, I guess I'd say, strong team that's here to stay. I know esports can be a little volatile sometimes, and you're seeing organizations doing bad things to players or making promises they can't keep. But you'll ask my players a lot of times, one of the things I'm very clear on is I'm going to set expectations where I can actually meet them, and I'm never going to promise something I can't deliver. People will try, I'm going to do all these crazy things with my team and whatever, but I'm like, I can't do those split 1, but maybe split 2, I can do these additional things that'll help, put you guys in a better place. So here are the things I can do, and I will deliver on those things. And so talk to me in 6 months, and hopefully I've lived up to my word, I guess I'd say, right?
Well, I'm sure I'll talk to you before 6 months. I'm sure we'll bump into each other again at one of these events, but pleasure to sit down and talk to you. Looking forward to seeing how your team does in EU LCS next year. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of our coverage of all things esports at GameSpot.com.
Thanks.